I suppose it had to happen eventually. Only for the second time in 9 years have I had to resort to muting someone on this channel. One guy has repeatedly incited others to make quite irrational comments. I do not dislike anyone I report for careless, dangerous or driving without due care and attention. But I will report them for doing so in the hope that they change their attitude to using the highway. Unfortunately, we live in a society of blame culture, and this poor guy repeatedly goes on about the impact of the stress and anxiety he went through and continues to feel following his conviction or attendance of a driving course. But unfortunately, he will not reveal his registration number so I can look back at the video. Like many adults today, he sadly fails to accept that it was not the action of reporting him, or even that of the police deciding to act upon the report I made, that has resulted in his stress and anxiety. It is his actions and his alone that brought about his conviction. I wonder how he would have felt if it had been a police officer that saw him and made the report. He also seems, like others, to choose to ignore the fact that motorcyclists and drivers also use cameras, and there are many TV programmes that show dashcam footage, but we don't hear cries or complaint about those. The reality of law is simple. There are 3 types of carriage that are permitted to use the highway. Motor driven, that is any carriage that has a motor regardless of size or function, so a bus, a truck, a van, a car or a motorcycle. It has a motor and the fuel source is also irrelevant, diesel, petrol or electric. The second type is horse-drawn, so pulled by a horse or multiples of. The third is a self-propelled carriage, a traditional scooter, unicycle, bicycle, tricycle, quadricycle or a hand cycle if you're disabled. You are the source of the propulsion, therefore it is self-propelled, and all have equal rights unless there are some restrictions such as motorways. Road tax too does not exist. That was abolished in 1937, brought by a motion in Parliament by Winston Churchill. His statement was that in order to stop drivers thinking they had sole right to the highway, we must abolish road tax. It was, as we know, replaced by vehicle excise duty, and is now based on the pollution a vehicle creates. So for self-propelled cycles or horse-drawn carriages, that would be zero. We must also accept that every driver is subsidised by every taxpayer in the country to around £2,500 a year. So add that to the VED you pay and then claim you are funding the roads. The truth is, every taxpayer, regardless of whether you drive or not, is funding the road network. Only motorways and trunk roads are funded from VED. Hence why it states highways on your council tax bill. Many cyclists too also have insurance. Currently for around £16 a year, you can get £2 million worth of third-party liability cover. That premium alone demonstrates who causes the most harm. But back to this poor guy who sadly feels that my action is the resulting cause of his stress and anxiety. It simply is not. If he had driven within the law, or been as careful a competent driver he thinks he is, there would have been nothing to report. Let's remove that word driving, shall we? Let's replace it with operating a machine that can seriously injure or kill people. So if someone neglects to operate that machine within the rules and puts others at risk of serious harm or death. Around 90% of the highway code is written to control the actions of motor carriages, or the operators of, I should say. We all accept without question the figures and statements around the number of motorcyclists injured or killed each year. And only when the term cyclist is used do people get themselves wound up. I welcome the announcement around cyclists being punished on par with the operators of powered carriages, just as I support the need to retest those operators every 5 years to ensure that a safe standard of operating powered carriages is maintained. Those that call for insurance and taxations of cycles never seem to offer a reasonable course of action as to when this would start, from age 5, 10 or 16. When? By banning this guy, I hope he will get the help he obviously needs, and that such help will enlighten him to see that it was not me or the tens of thousands of cyclists across the country, or motorcyclists or drivers who make reports that are the cause of his problem, but himself and his actions that caused the issue in the first place. Put simply, follow the rules and laws, then there isn't an issue. After all, they exist for all of us to ensure no one impacts another. We are all taught when learning to drive that our actions should not impact another road user. But sadly, there are always those that feel they can do what they like. It is not the reporter that makes the decision to prosecute or send the driver on a course. it is the upholders of the law, the police. If you take issue with your punishment, why not take it up with them? There would be no conviction if the police felt you were being held with a gun to your head, or someone had your arm up your back, or you were being entrapped. Your punishment is a result of your actions and yours alone. I wish the gentleman well and hope that one day he will come to understand this. And as for the guy who thinks videos can't be uploaded until a conviction is made, sadly you're wrong. A conviction has nothing to do with displaying images of poor driving. Of course, those that feel the law is wrong can lobby their MP to get it changed. Personally, I will continue to upload and report poor driving. I was the victim of a hit and run by a coward who left me unconscious in the road. Was I doing anything wrong? No. I was riding in secondary position. That is within a metre of the curb, when this cowardly person drove into me. Did it matter that my family were distressed when the police arrived with my mangled bike and a message I had been taken to hospital, with injuries that subsequently left me with permanent damage to my body? In some people's eyes, obviously not, but then they are all brave on the keyboard. But they never seem to carry out their threats when it's the police or courts they're dealing with. So many times I've had abuse hurled at me, like other cyclists have also experienced. But these tough guys never seem to take their opportunity to go to court to argue their case. As former Police Constable Hodgson of West Midlands Road Policing said on many occasions, if everyone drove to test standard, then he, like other traffic officers, would be out of job. The use of cameras weaponises cyclists to help raise driving standards. After all, we have no metal box around us, or airbags, side impact bars or crumple zones. Some of us do wear a polystyrene hat. So all we ask is that you don't see a cyclist, see a brother, a father, husband, wife, sister or grandparent. Because just like the operators of motor carriages, we have families too.